Productions. 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 Tessa Productions. Tessa Productions. Tessa Productions. Tessa Productions. Tessa Productions.
Wash mama what's in his palapa. Why is the Lamavasa? Nabalabana Mawala, I take Papa ni Shepele, Nestabana ni Telele, Kepiano ni Yegele, I want to start the show when it must be West in the
English, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Nice to be here. I guess that tag or that theme is spiritual. Why? Because Berger, please, anyhow I pronounce it, I have to. Okay, let me ask my mother here, Mommy. I'm sorry, ma, but Mommy, what's the correct pronunciation once again? Berger, Berger. That is saying Badger too. I know I'm not the only one in this room. There are plenty. Daddy, sir, you. Badger, sir. Badger. That is not, it's not honorable, Abby. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Badger paints. Yes. TrueColour. Today is tagged TrueColour. And as I was saying, this tag is spiritual. Why? We are going through a lot in this country. This country is showing us its true color. So even this, I will advise this country to come and patronize Berger. You understand? Because the country itself is showing us its true color. But we don't know if it's white, off-white, or black. But the country is showing us one thing. But ladies and gentlemen, the good thing about this event is Badger Paint is not showing us or does not want to show us what's going on in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, that Badger Paint has put these events together to discuss not the situation of the country, no, We are not interested in that. But we are here to discuss the importance of sustainability as it aligns with the SDG goals and commitment to protect the environment and keep it safe while doing business. That is why it is called True Color. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for Berger Paint. Today promises to be fun. We have a lot to do today. Today promises to be educative. Our panelists and we have two panel sessions today. Our panelists are ready for us and they are ready to educate us on things we need to know about our environment, things to know on how to keep our environment. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the next thing, I'd like to say a brief thing about Baja Paint that I'm sure everybody or almost everybody here know about. Ladies and gentlemen, Baja Paints Nigeria PLC is a Nigeria leading paint brand with over 50 quality products with seamless delivery of service. With seamless delivery of service. As we all know, ladies and gentlemen, that Baja Paint is one of the best, if not the best, top paint manufacturing brand in Africa, not just Nigeria alone. It's offering varieties of paints and coating products to provide every customer's desire experience. Today, we are going to have testimonies from our clients, from our customers to tell us how effective Baja Print product is. But ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, as you all know, we are in Nigeria, in West Africa. So before we commence with today's event, we would like to start with the national anthem, and the DJ will help us with that. So very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please, if your hands or legs are not too busy, I want us to please rise on our feet as the DJ helps us with the national anthem. DJ Pama. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let us have our seats. Many of us, we are waiting for, let's recite the school anthem. No, there is no school anthem. There is no national anthem. It's just there's no pledge rather, or national pledge. It's just the national anthem. Or does Beja have an anthem? For now, if there is none, let's move to the next thing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before we go into the business of the day, I'd like to call on the business representative of Berger Paint. She's the managing director of Berger Paint. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy, I bring to the microphone Mrs. Alaba Fagun as she comes forward for the welcome address. Please don't stop till she gets here. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Those here and those online, good morning. I am honored to stand before you today as we embark on a journey into the heart of TrueColours, the pioneer panel discussion brought to you by Berger Paints Nigeria PLC. This event signifies our commitment to meaningful discourse and the pursuit of a better, more sustainable future for our cities and communities. As the Managing Director of Berger Paints, I am deeply invested in our role as a responsible corporate citizen. We understand the significance of ability. Our company has a long-standing tradition of delivering high-quality products that not only beautify, but also protect and enhance the longevity of our spaces. Today, our TrueColours panel discussion will delve into two vital discussions of urban development and primary focus on sustainable cities and communities. The first session will focus on breaking down the intricacies of environmental sustainability. It's no secret that our planet faces unprecedented environmental challenges. The intricacies of environmental sustainability are complex and multifaceted, encompassing issues such as climate change, resource depletion, and pollution. To build sustainable cities, we must first understand these intricacies and work collectively to mitigate their impact. Our esteemed panelists will shed light on these issues and offer insights into how we can navigate the path towards a greener and more sustainable urban future. The second panel will focus on bridging the gap between rural and urban settlements. The divide between rural and urban areas is a significant challenge that our society grapples with. As cities continue to grow, it is imperative that we find ways to bridge this gap, ensuring that the benefits of urbanization reach even the most remote corners of our nation. This session will explore innovative strategies to bring equality and development to both rural and urban settlements. By doing so, our hope to create a more inclusive and balanced society. In the spirit of TrueColours, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage all of you to engage actively in this discussion, ask questions, share your insights, and challenge conventional wisdom. True progress often emerges from the crucible of open and constructive dialogue. Let us remember that the true colors of our society shine brightest when we come together, working hand in hand to build cities that are more not only beautiful, but also sustainable, inclusive, and vibrant. Thank you all for joining us today. And I am excited to see the rich tapestry of ideas and solutions that will emerge from our discussions. Together, let us paint a brighter, more colorful future for our cities and communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, if your hands are not too busy, a round of applause for the Managing Director, Berger Paint, in person of Mrs. Alaba Fagun. Once again, a round of applause for her, ladies and gentlemen. So very quickly, for another 10 minutes, we move to the brand advert for today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this brand advert will as the brand advert is going on, we are taking the media team to the factory, to the brand factory today. Media, we are waiting for you. Thank you.
Prophetess of Productions. Prophetess of Productions. Prophetess of Productions. Prophetess of Productions. Productions. Prophetess of Productions. Prophetess of Productions. Prophetessa Productions. Prophetessa Productions.
Back to this wonderful event. So, ladies and gentlemen, please once again a round of applause for yourself. A round of applause for yourself. I want us to be here together. Are we all inside? Yes. So before we go to the next thing, because the next session is about to be very educative and we have a lot to learn from the next session. But before we go to the next session, ladies and gentlemen, we are just coming back from the Badger Paint Manufacturing Factory. So I'd like to call one or two of us seated here, one or two of us that have been there, to come and tell us one or two things, or to come and summarize what you think or what you know about Badger Paint, and what you can see at the factory. Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen? Once I give you the microphone, I want you to start with your name and you proceed to the next thing. Like they said, what a man can do, the ladies can do better. So I'll start with the ladies in the house. Ladies in the house, please wave your hands. Mom, yeah, you're a lady now. Okay, she's okay. Ladies in the house, wave your hands. Auntie, you are part of the ladies now. You are not James Brown. So I'll give you the mic.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ekere Linda Ogechi. I'm the CEO of Lee Interiors. Going to the factory, I got to learn about the fact that Beggar Paint has two sections when it comes to production of paint. They have the water-based paint and the what's what you call it, solvent paint. And they have two factories now. The old factory had both of them in production, but now they had to bring the water-based here because it requires automated process in production. And I noticed something that in terms of sustaining energy and electricity and power, they have what they call the peak tank, which they use in the production process, and that helps in the I'm using reusing recycling of water process, and that's something I didn't know before. And before I came here, I learned something new yesterday from one of my staff, which is called LED lead in paint, which was used in the courses in school in terms of behavioral character, any kind of some kind of thing there. And driving down here, I read about beggar paint, and I noticed that you guys don't have that in your paint, and I was really impressed. I've never used you guys before, but with everything I've seen so far going on in the factory and learning from our dear Mrs. here, I would say I would gladly recommend it to my customers and make sure that they use it because you guys are really following the protocol of the UN SDG goals. I'm impressed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for her once again. So, madam, I would like to correct this. It is not beggar. Yes, because someone there this morning, someone was laughing at me. It's not beggar. With the power invested in me as the MC, it is Berger. So, sir, let me give you the microphone.
So, good morning, everyone. Francis Agilore is my name, an executive director at LifePage. We're in the business of making life richer. The good part of my experience here today so far has been the fact that I've never had to use Badger Paint. Coincidentally, I stay and I have an office not too far from here. But until I was trying to use Google Map, I realized that, wow, so this brand is just so close to me and I never took advantage of it. One other thing in the course of the tour, I found that excellence was displayed at every essence you can explain. Excellence was displayed. I was just speaking somewhere recently and I said excellence is at different level. There's excellence of 1 million naira, there's excellence of 100 million naira, but somebody can still have a billion and still not be able to display excellence. I've seen that displayed here. Touch of color combinations in itself brings about a lot of innovation and inspiration that is being exhibited here. In terms of efficiency, no room for waste. That's one of the things I picked from the factory, whether it's water, whether it is energy. And the key thing that business people need to know is not managing things. It is actually optimizing things. And I've seen that is being displayed here efficiently. So I must commend the brand. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Please, once again, a round of applause for him. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for this great company, Berger Paints. Please, a round of applause for them. Berger Paints. So before we proceed, I want to give the microphone to someone, this last person, to pronounce the name of this wonderful and beautiful organization. Madam, please do us the honors. Pronounce it once again.
Berger.
So I'll ask, was she correct? She's. Please a round of applause for her. Hey, Berger. It is no beggar. So, ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, we move to the first thing of the day, the first main event of the day. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to the first panel session of the day. Please, a round of applause for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. And to moderate that for us, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman I'm about to call was the managing director of Business Day. Ladies and gentlemen, he has extensive knowledge of economic analysis, serving as a special advisor to the chief economic advisor of the president. Please, a round of applause for him. We are getting somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, he studied economics from the University of Manchester. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, he is the CEO of Think Business Africa. Please, if your hands are not too busy, a round of applause for Dr. Ogo Okiti. So am I correct? Dr. Ogo Okiti. Yes, sir. Can sit anywhere. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ogo Okiti is the CEO of Think Africa, and he will be moderating this panel section. The first panel section, he'll be our moderator. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the first panel session is the sustainability from an environmental angle. From an environmental angle. And this panel section is divided into two. First, the sustainability in reflection to the allied and coating industry. And number two, the financial, technical, and environmental point of view. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy, I'd like to hand over the microphone to the one and only, the Chief Executive Officer of Think Business Africa, Dr. Ogo Okiti. Please, a round of applause for him.
Yeah, thank you so very much for the kind and generous introduction. And I'm truly glad to be here this morning, and because I believe we're talking about two important things. One, sustainability, and of course, we're talking about the environment. But for most of this meeting, I won't be the one talking. So let me very quickly invite my panel to join me here on stage. So for the first panel here this morning, I have three names here, and I hope that's still correct. So I have, we're looking at breaking down the intricacies of environmental sustainability. And I've been told we have 45 minutes. So the first person I will invite to the, hop here is Olumide Odunoga, who is the head of General Services First Bank. Olumide Odunoga. If he's not here, very quickly, I'll move to the second person. Dapo Omolade, CEO Hybrid Group. Dapo. Okay, that's fine. So, sorry, he will continue to, he will introduce the panel so that I will just ask my own questions here.
Thank you very much, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause once again for our doctor, the CEO Think Africa, in person of Dr. Ogo Okiti. So, ladies and gentlemen, first, our first panelist, since...
Yes, Mr. Dapo, yes.
So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our first panelist is on seat already in person of Mr. Dapo Omolade. Please, a round of applause for him. Many of us seated here, we only know him as Mr. Dapo Omolade. But what a lot of us don't know is that Mr. Dapo Omolade seated here is the CEO of Hybrid Group Limited. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dapo Omolade has 24 years experience in HSC, that's Health and Safety Environment. I hope I'm correct. Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, HSC project and dangerous goods management. He's also a consultant, he's a trainer, an auditor, and a coach for clients across various sectors, helping them develop, implement, and improve their ISO systems, their safety standards, and environmental practices, and achieve their business and sustainability goals. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for him. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, he's the CEO of Hybrid Group Limited. And Hybrid Group Limited is one-stop HSC firm with offices in Nigeria, Ghana, UK, where he leads a team of professionals who offer diverse services in HSC and project management. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I said, he is a certified and approved instructor and trained the trainer for many international awarding bodies and a member of several HSC professional and technical bodies. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have on seats Mr. Dakpo Omolade. Please, a round of applause for him. Secondly, I'd like to call on the head of operations of Berger Paints Nigeria PLC, in person of Mrs. Aderonke Olajubu. Please, a round of applause for Mrs. Aderonke Olajubu. Now, Mrs. Aderonke Olajubu studied in one of Nigeria's most prestigious schools. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, she holds a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife. Great Ife. Mommy, that students of that are one of the most proud people I've ever seen in my life. Great Ife and Iba UI. But ladies and gentlemen, she's also a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Chemists of Nigeria, ICCON. Mrs. Aderonke here has attended various local and international trainings, which includes technical workshop on paint, coatings, and allied products, bulletproof manager, and strategic marketing and leadership courses. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Aderonke here has served in various capacities for over 25 years and has contributed immensely to research and development, quality control of paint, raw materials, finished products, and project sales, that is sales and applications of Berger paint. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have on seats one of our panelists. We have Mrs. Aderonke Olajubu. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we move swiftly into the panel session, I'd like to hand over the microphone once again to our moderator, the Chief Executive Officer of Think Business Africa, in person of Dr. Ogo Okiti.
Yes, so thank you very much, Deji. So, very quickly, this panel session, as I said before, we're looking at breaking down the intricacies of environmental sustainability. And I have two illustrious speakers here that will be shedding light on that. The focus really is to be looking at the different dimensions of environmental sustainability. And so let me quickly say this. I believe most of us here, when we hear environment, and of course, when we hear sustainability, I mean, it's so broad, it's so comprehensive, and I'm sure if we have to ask everyone here to give a definition or their own description of what environmental sustainability, we'll probably listen to about 20 or 30 different things. So because of that, I think the first thing we want to do here this morning is to, from your own point of view, especially from the work that you do, the experience that you do, would you please provide the intricacy of environmental sustainability? How does it affect your work? How do you think about it? How do you see it? How do you ensure it in the work and, of course, in the industry that you're in? I will start with you, Dapo, please.
All right, thank you so very much. Good morning, everyone. Let me first say thank you to the Berger Paints management for the opportunity to be here today. I count this very noble, what you're doing, because this is beyond trying to bring customers to see what you're doing. I think you're already promoting what the United Nations is saying. The biggest takeaway from what United Nations is doing right now is asking everybody to join the conversation. If you heard anything from the hunger that just ended, and you heard what United Nations said about the implementation of the SDG, then it means we all need to be scared where we are. Presently, less than 15% achievement after 8 years. We have 7 more years to go. But in 8 years, I mean, we do a lot of KPIs and milestones here, so you know what that means. If in 8 years you have done less than 15%, so how do you want to do 85% in 7 years? And that's the complete SDG, and this global. Now, if you dovetail back to Nigeria, then you and I will know that the percentage is smaller. That's obvious, because a few things that we'll read out as statistics very soon will show you that. So doing this is joining the conversation, and I'm very excited to be part of this. Right, sustainability is a very big elephant in the house, and we need to just pick them a little bit. But let me put it in the way I tell people, I say, when they ask you to talk about something, say it so that the 10-year will not ask you another question. Otherwise, you are in trouble. So sustainability for me is telling me to be reasonable, use the resources I have now, and think about the future generation and their ability to have access to that same resource, e.g., use water now so that those who are coming years after will have water to use. That's sustainability. It's as simple as that. And it comes from a point where people need to understand that what you have is not infinite. That means it can end. So if there is no intentionality, there's no a kind of a deliberate attention and action, it will finish. And when it ends, then we have to start telling the generation that are coming and start telling them, we are sorry. We are making the life more difficult for them. Some time ago, I was teaching sustainability, and I told a group of people, and I said, my father did mention that while he was in the university, they used to eat first big chicken, later they changed it to half chicken, later it became quarter chicken, and then no chicken again. And that shows, and the question is, was there any idea then that we're going to get to a point in 2023 that we're not going to have that available? There was no plan. Nobody thought about it. So sustainability is not new, because from 1978 it became a major discussion, but it has always been there. People just do not come to a point where they realize what I have in excess today will finish tomorrow. And it's biting. You know, I live somewhere close, and when I'm coming towards Ojota, every morning I see loads of fruit destroyed. But when I go out to buy, I'm buying one for 500 naira. It just doesn't make sense. It means in a part of the world, we have not come to the reality that this thing finished. And then you start seeing the cascading consequences: scarcity, hunger, diseases, poverty. You can name them. And you don't need a prophet to tell you what we see in our own environment to tell us that we have been wasters of the resources. And so when we get to the point where we no longer have it to use, then we will have to suffer for it. Environmentalists believe one single thing: what you are destroying now, you will suffer for it later. And so this initiative is to begin to bring us to that place where we are all thinking and saying, what can I do so that my generation will enjoy this, and my children to come will still have access to the same thing? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, please, you can give him a round of applause. Dr. Thank you so very much. So I so much like the brief description and definition of environment and sustainability that you gave, because there are two key words that you did not mention, but which you thoroughly explained. One is, how do we store what we have? And of course, the second one is, if we have to use it, how do we replenish it? So you have to store because we have to still use resources. Okay, but we don't have to use them in excess, and which was what we learned from in the new factory tour. And of course, if we even have to use them, and there's nothing wrong in using them, but how do we effectively replenish them? So I'll come to you, madam, and please, from your own perspective as well. And he has used some examples, especially agriculture, fruit, and so many other examples. But you may want to draw your own examples, especially from the environment where we live now. I mean, you are our host, so you may want to use Berger paints as an example. But we're interested in the intricacies and the dimensions of sustainability from your own. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much. Environmental sustainability, to make it very simple, it is a long-term maintenance of the economic, the social, the cultural, and environmental systems, such that the future generation, they're able to meet their needs without compromising the integrity of the natural resources. And the key point there, we're looking at the future generation. And of course, there are limited resources, because the resources that are available today will not always be available if they are not properly conserved. And it has to do with the future generation being able to meet their needs and still maintain the integrity of natural resources. And it has to do with having to mitigate climate change. It has to do with having to also preserve the biodiversity, because we know that we have a lot of aquatic life, we have plants, we have animals. All these are members of the community, and they also have a right to live. Just as we are here in this industrial estate, Berger Paints, we make paint, coatings, and allied products. We recognize that living things, whether human, plants, or animals, they are part of the community. So our business activity is not in any way supposed to prey on them. They have a right to live. And so we ensure in Berger Paints that our own business activity still makes the environment friendly. And of course, we have people in mind. People first, the employees. Second, the customers. And our applicators also fall under our customers. And of course, we have planet Earth to preserve, and also our profit. Because when we maintain that environmental sustainability consciousness, we preserve people, we preserve the planet, and we also preserve our profit. Because of course, we're in business to make profit. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And obviously, I mean, we are in business to make profit. Mr. Dakwa, I want to come back to you. There was something you mentioned in your introduction that I find very, very interesting. I mean, you said we've done 15% in terms of the SDG, the 15-year SDG. Of course, we've done 8 now. Is the 2030 is the target. Okay, great. And the key point you mentioned was that if globally we are doing 15%, what are we doing in Nigeria? So, and that brings me to the question, what is the, how does Nigeria compare today? I mean, when we talk about environmental sustainability, of course, there are countries, there are regions, there are continents. But if we just look at Nigeria compared to the rest of the world, how do we compare today? And what are the driving elements, I mean, that make us be where we are instead of be somewhere else?
All right, thank you very much, moderator. I would like to state that I'm a proud Nigerian, and I'm very glad to be here in Nigeria. And I can also state on that particular platform that we are beginning to do what I think is right. Prior to this time, there have been a whole lot of issues around Nigeria embracing the United Nations SDG goals and many other goals. I would like to state here that with the information that I have, in the last 3-4 years, there've been a whole lot of drive, a whole lot of push that is coming. And I'll tell you where these push are coming from. Number one, United Nations SDG goal is about a global move to ensure that we can achieve so many things within that 17 goals. No poverty and all of that combined. However, there are things that are peculiar to us in this part of the world that stood as a barrier to us from embracing it at the initial stage. For example, somebody would say, and I can tell you in Africa, less than 0.3% is the contribution of the whole of Africa to all the problem in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why the African is pushing right now, seriously. If you follow the COPs 26 and you follow the one that is coming, there's a fight now to say you can't technically cheat Africa from using our resources because you want us to protect the world. And that was where the whole of Africa stood initially. We are not the one destroying the world. Why are you disturbing us? You keep everything over there. Leave us to enjoy our own resources. And if you have followed the energy industry in Nigeria, as a last year during the NOG in Abuja, the Minister of Petroleum still stated and said it very clear, leave us alone, we will use our petroleum. Because we have it, and we are not the one that have destroyed the whole world, but I think that's a fallacy because the whole globe is one community. So if you understand that it's just one universe, what happens in Nigeria here has an effect on what is happening in Singapore. It's just a matter of time. We didn't see that initially. All we made noise about was the fact that they have enjoyed their own westernization and civilization and industrialization, and they don't want us to enjoy it. So they say no more petroleum, no more this, no more that, and we're fighting it. But there's a change in narrative right now. Between 2020 and now, there have been 3 or 4 policies on sustainability, especially when it comes to waste management, comes to circular economy, comes to solid waste, comes to gas, policies signed by the government. And that for me is an interesting part because that signature gave us a framework that Nigeria has now started. When the president, as I speak with you, all things being equal, before the end of sometime next year, the plastic waste control regulation will be signed. That is coming from the policy that was signed in 2020 on plastic waste. A policy was signed in 2020. By now, the regulation is at the final stage of being accented to. So we are now pushing. But the international development partners, the NGOs, the friends of the environment, they are the one pushing us. If you leave the typical Nigerian the way we are still in the same mindset that we are not the one that killed the world. Why do you want us to suffer? Leave us alone. But we are going to lose from international funding. International world will not come here. Some of them have stopped funding things in Nigeria. They are the owners of the money. By the way, let me state this clearly. Sustainability is a big deal within the financial sector. Now, they are the real fighter and the push for this because Berger Paints needs funds to continue. So the people pushing sustainability right now, not even the environmentalists, unfortunately, is the banks and the financial institutions. They are the one pushing it. Why are they pushing it? Because you need their money, then set your sustainability in progress, or that will not give you money. So Nigeria is beginning to do sustainability because we need their money to do our business. And so we are embracing it. I think if the push continues for another 3, 4, 5 years, there's going to be a lot of shaking that is taking place, and we will do the right thing. Thank you.
I will stay with you, and because I'm really, really particular about the driving element, and you mentioned one, finance. Yeah. But before the finance, I mean, I'm talking the domestic environment now. What is the role of poverty, ignorance, or you can use, not use that, you can knowledge. Poverty, yeah. Knowledge, in the way things are in Nigeria?
Obviously, we are not aware because everything with respect to doing the right thing starts from your level of awareness. If you do not know what to do, you are obviously going to make a mistake, or you are going to do the other side of what you're supposed to do. So we can't discount the fact that Nigerians are very likely, there's a big gap in knowledge when it comes to, I was discussing on the platform and I say circular economy. So I say, what does that mean? I try to break it down. And the person said, I've never heard that. And this is supposed to be an educated person. Not even those that you think have not acquired a bit of knowledge here and there. Someone who's gone to school, who is a graduate, doesn't even understand what I'm talking about. So the point is, we can be very literate, even though our literacy level is low. We can be very literate, but yet do not understand what is going on. So Within our society, you see people thinking this is just a fallacy. They are thinking it's just some propaganda. And by the way, the whole world also started the propaganda themselves. The first time I heard about global warming was from Al Gore in 1980s when he was the vice president. And he wrote a book, he called it Global Warning. But every scientist and world government discounted it. And they said it was a propaganda. 40 years ago, somebody talked about global warming, did an analysis at Lake Chad and showed what was happening there, but we discounted it. So without knowledge, people cannot do the right thing. And in Nigeria, within the society, it's going to be a big deal if we don't have this kind of conversation. And I'm hoping that the people that brought here are quite educated. If you ask me for my next line of advice, we need to engage those who don't even understand this English that we're speaking and tell them what is the little thing you can do in that your environment that shows you are supporting our sustainability drive. That's when we start getting the conversation there. Yeah. We are too educated to even do this because sometimes it's not biting us here. Let me state this. I hope your buckets are not being used for people who are drinking water. I see this. Even with the paints in the bucket, they use it to fetch water and consume it. That shows what we're talking about here. So if we get to that place, Ogba, Agege, and start looking at things that are happening, you'll be shocked at the level of understanding, the level of understanding. So we need to take this to the grassroots because it's about poverty, sickness, issues, and all of that. It's not at this level, it's right there at the bottom. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. If you want to clap, please do. So, Ronke, let me now, I'm just going to continue from where you stop, and that's why you're going to, here you have the chief operating officer, head of operations, yes, head of operations. And of course, in the operations, you have people, that carry out that operation. What's been the challenge for you as a company and of course, as leading the troop in building in that knowledge, that consciousness amongst your staff regarding environmental sustainability?
Okay. Really, I want to start by saying that before you talk of an environmentally sustainability conscious workforce, you have to first talk about the work environments. Okay. Here in Badger Paints, we have a very friendly, eco-friendly, and comfortable work environment because we realize that employees spend more hours at work than at home and than any other place. And so because of that, it means that we have a long work day. And so when you have an environment that is environmentally sustainable and friendly, it takes the stress off you and it makes your work enjoyable. During the introduction, I have 25 years of experience, over 25, and that's because the work environment is what it should be, even though on daily basis, we're improving. And so, back to your question, what we do in the operations team in Badger Paints is to make sure that there's awareness. Once there's awareness and training on the importance of environmental sustainability, then you get the team to key in. And we also employ environmentally sustainable practices such that we have good manufacturing practices. And so it's easy for employees to get the point and to see that, well, this company is concerned about my health and my well-being. Another thing is the vision of leadership. I tell you, we had a short tour to the new factory. It tells you the vision of the board and of course of top management that in having that automated plant, that talks about the provision of infrastructure. While we're there, I made mention of the fact that the operation lies solely on air compressor. And that means that we're optimizing or saving power usage or power consumption. Then another thing is that, we have policies aside government regulatories. We have policies that control our processes. And so people see the need to protect their health, to protect the customer, and of course the end users. What I'm trying to say, for instance, is that I want to make an example of the anti-fouling paints. That's for the bottom of the ship. Here in Badger paints, in the past, a lot of people, even till now, they're using TBTO, tin oxide based, and by so doing, they could be protecting the vessel or the ship, but they're destroying aquatic life. In Badger paint, right from the selection of raw materials, we do that carefully, such that we don't pollute the water bodies, and also we protect aquatic life, either plants or animals. Like I said earlier, they have a right to live. They're part of the community. So that is part of what we do, education, and of course, technology. We leverage on technology, because with technology, you're able to make the processes to be very eco-friendly, and as such, staff key into it.
Okay, so let me follow up on that question. So what drives compliance? What do you think drives? I mean, I know there's leadership, I know there's policy, I know, but I've also managed a business before. Yes. I'm still managing one. So what drives compliance in terms of environmental sustainability? Is it because there are consequences for bad behavior, or is it because people have become so aware and knowledgeable that this is not only about Badger, but also about themselves?
Thank you. The first thing that drives compliance, I want to call it innovation.
Okay.
Yes, because the research and development team, they come up with innovative ideas and products. And by so doing, it means that even our products, are directed towards environmental friendliness. Then apart from that, I've mentioned technology, then I want to talk about reward, motivation. Here in Badger Paints, we have those we call safety champions. Then on monthly basis, the HSC department identifies people, employees that are very health and safety conscious. So it's not all about the sanction. If I don't do this, then I get punished. Yeah. But there's also the reward system, motivation. By the time you tell, okay, for this department, this is the health and safety champion, or somebody worthy of commendation. So those are part of what we do, apart from training.
Okay, so as we try to bring this to a close, and I can take one or two questions maximum, but I want to ask this question, Dr. Anronke. If you had to advise, because your own interest is Badger Paints and your own interest is hybrid, and of course your clients, and but if we look at the whole Nigerian environment, we are doing very, very poorly. So if you must advise the government or the policymaker, what would be the number one advice that you give in the way that we should go and travel? Then I will take one or two questions from the audience, and then, yes, I'm coming. So very quickly, and I'll take any other person so that I know the people I'm asked. There's 1, 2, that's it. Okay, please.
Okay. What I would advise the government to do will be to implement and enforce regulations. Okay. It's not enough to have it. At the moment, we have inadequate regulations, and those ones that are even existing, permit me to say they are weak.
But is it not because the people do the regulation don't even believe in it?
Well, that's where awareness and training comes to play.
Okay.
Then on the side of the companies too,
Okay.
the government has to encourage businesses.
Yeah.
Give us incentives, give us subsidies. When you recognize companies that are environmentally, friendly, we should have some.
Them.
Thank you. We should have tax incentives. We should have tax relief. We should have subsidies.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think for me, and this part of what I do regularly, I think advocacy is the foundation of what government needs to do right now.
Okay.
That advocacy needs to be so strong to enable people to believe in what they're doing and also come to the table. Because without that, we will counter the policy. Okay. If, for example, you are saying, don't do this, and the person look at you in the face and then
do it
and does it. It means the person does not know. So we need a lot of advocacy out there to get people to align on what is right. And I also want to add one final thing. I think it's very important that everyone becomes the advocate. I share a simple example, just as in hybrid. Recently, we implemented a policy in the business, and that policy is plastic use. And we decided to address it to our delegates that came around. And you wouldn't believe, I did a presentation on plastic for about 10 minutes, told them the statistic of plastic, 300 tons of plastic every year being produced, less than 25% being reused. And when I finished, I said, okay, so at the end of this now, we'll no longer be giving you water in plastic. We are provided mugs. We will now ask you to go and get water from the dispenser. I will still have some people that say
and they became annoyed.
And some people say, no, we cannot.
Yeah.
We need to still drink from the plastic. Of course, I have to give some the plastic bottle. For those that are aligned, I gave them the mug and say, please go to the dispenser and get water. Awesome. Now, at the end of that, I proved to them that the mug I'm giving you is even more expensive than the water I'll give you for 10 days. I can go with the mug when you're finished. It's yours. So some still didn't agree. Okay. Advocacy. It's not everybody that will align the same day, but we must continue the push until we get everybody. Thank you.
I'll take my two questions. Daniel, very quickly. Please, straight question, please.
Yes, thank you very much. It's good to be part of this. Mr. Dr. Dapo, thank you very much for giving us the knowledge that we've done 15% out of SDG, which is very, very instructive here. How can we do 85% in 8 years? That's not unachievable. But my comment and a question is advocacy. I agree, because it appears we have been driving sustainability and environmental protection top to down, which is not working. One of the ways that advocacy possibly to work is it not better, Dapo and Madam Aloji and Dr. too, that we introduce this as a curriculum in the schools to build it from primary to tertiary, so that it becomes part of us. Because I believe in the consciousness of driving this policy will not work.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for the sessions and enlightenments. So my question is, this topic, sustainable cities and communities, is one of the SDG goals. And if you drill down to this topic, it's talking about human settlements. That's right. So my question is, if we're talking about human settlements, is it really talking about how we build our houses, the kind of materials we use, absolutely, or when we build the houses from canal to water resources and things like that? So I just want to understand what else I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, sorry, before you answer that question, so I think this, I forgot to mention, there are quite a number of people that have joined us online, and we have 2 questions from there. The first is, how is Berger dealing with decarbonizing the economy? That's number 1. And number 2, you will take that, Renke. And number 2 is, sorry, this right. What drives company management and workers to comply with sustainability of the environment in relation to source of raw materials? You take those 2 questions. So I'll go with you first.
All right, so that's very pretty straightforward, and you have answered the question because there are quite some indicators in all those SDG that you can take. It's like a checklist, and you say, what can you do? The big driver here is how are we building, and how are we building the communities. Now it goes to Matthew. I was very excited when I went to your place and I saw the kind of paints and you were giving us the analysis. Indeed, there are a lot of things that have been done before that are not sustainable, which is causing environmental pollution and is causing many issues. So now we are driving to say, how do you manufacture? What are the components of your cities? If you see a structure like this that you're looking at here, what are the things that make this up? If this is all plastics, if this is all petroleum product, then we're in trouble. What can we do to make this sustainable? Go back to the glass, go back to the wood, go back to those things that will not destroy. If this goes on fire, do you know how many tons of carbon you are releasing to the atmosphere as we have around us here? So it's big deal. And it's really, it applies to Berger Paints so much because you've got to intensify your research and development processes because you are part of the community. You are part of that infrastructure. Very strong part of the infrastructure and the communities. So if I'm going to get a paint now, will I start watching out for? Personally, I don't use energy solvent. I was very happy to enter that place because I've entered there before and I couldn't choke. I do not enter a place where I choke. I'll run out immediately. If that was a solvent place, I would have. So I was trying to smell. I didn't smell anything. I said, well, this is beautiful. Doesn't look like a paint company. Where right from the gate, I have to start asking for nose masks. That's the reality. I mean, I do quite a few consulting amongst your peers and your competitors. And sometimes these are the realities. And that's what we're talking about. So we really need to do a lot of R&D and make sure we are contributing to this community and ensuring that that's what concerns you. But if you go to the engineering, civil now, we start talking about the waterways, where are they building and all of that. But with decor and everything, I think it's about chemical because chemical is a big deal in not fulfilling sustainability. Big deal. It's very big, when you do chemicals. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll start from the second question on raw materials.
Yes.
So what we do is that we start from what we call the technical data sheets and the safety data sheets. Yes, TDS and SDS. Where that start point informs our choice as per selection of the kind of raw materials to use in the production of our paints, coatings, and allied products. So by the time we study what the components are, the handling is all about, then it dictates to us whether it is fit for use. So we wouldn't compromise because once the materials are toxic to human, now then effect starts from the employees. It goes straight to the applicator and of course the end users of those facilities that have been painted. So that's what we do on that. We carefully select our choice of raw materials. Then on decarbonizing the environment, during the tour, I told you we operate on pneumatics, air pressure. So that talks to reduction of the power consumption. Because since we run on pneumatic system there, we use less of energy. Another thing we do in Berger Paints is that the choice of our machineries and plants. We don't just purchase equipment because we have the funds. No, there are things we watch out for. What is the energy consumption of this equipment that we want to purchase such that we are able to reduce that? Then apart from that, we also watch our activities. We engage in sustainable practices such that we do not pollute the air. We don't destroy or damage the quality of air. And also the pig line we use on our effluent treatment plant also helps us to make sure that we preserve the water bodies and we make water, potable water available, we find ourselves in a community. We know we are not the only ones there, and even our lives too are precious. So we make sure that we don't pollute the source of water, we don't pollute the air quality due to our activities.
Yeah, thank you so very much. We have come to the end of this panel conversation. And before I say my thank you, let me just quickly respond to this last question. Say, are there sustainability drives inculcated in an institution? I believe the answer is yes. And I believe they have demonstrated that there's so much that institutions driving environmental sustainability. So please, let me give a round of applause to Mr. Dapo Omolade, the CEO of Ivory Group, and Mrs. Ronke Olajibo, the head of operation Berger Plants. Thank you so much for your insight, the time, and of course, the energy you have shown here this morning. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Once again, if you know you enjoyed that panel session, please a round of applause for our panelists and the moderator. Sir, the moderator, Dr. Sir, you are still coming back for the second session. So, okay, thank you very much, sir. So before we continue, we have an online comment from Mr. Moshood. And he's saying, well done to all the presenters. You are all awesome, and we will admire Badger. We would like Badger to organize seminar or workshop or a training session for young people, especially students. That was an online comment, especially students. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, please, a round of applause for our panelists and the moderators. They've done a great work today. Please, if you know you enjoyed that session, please let me see your hands in the air, please. If you know you learned a lot, let me see your hands in the air. Now, thank you very much. When I was listening, especially to Mr. Dapo talked about the UN regularization. And now that brings me to Berger Paints itself. Berger Paints is a company that is committed to gender equality. I don't know if you have noticed. It's a company that is committed to gender equality. It is obvious. We have evidences everywhere. Example, if you look at the managing director of this wonderful company, person of Mrs. Alaba Fagun. Please, a round of applause for her. Fagun. She's a female. And apart from that, we have other people who are in the board that are female. What I'm trying to say is we integrate responsibilities, we bring responsibilities together. We don't say this person is a male, we don't say this person is a female. No, all we do here is work together towards the client's goal and objective, their requirements. You understand, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We have diverse management team with equal representation of male and female, exceeding the affirmative action targets. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on that note, in fact, Berger Paint has exceeded the UN regularization. Please, a round of applause for Berger Paint, ladies and gentlemen. So, Berger Paint is not a company where you say, I have a link, because you are a man, they will pay you 1 million, and because you are a woman, they will pay you 200,000. No. If you are a woman and you can do as much job as what that man can do, even better, you'll be paid more. So far, the set goals and objectives are achieved. Don't gender anything here. Gender equality in Berger Paint is one thing we look forward to, is one thing we make sure. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed, given some questions to ask, and I was told, not me now, I was told that we have prizes for anyone who can answer the question, both online and those seated here. So, ladies and gentlemen, part of the prizes to be given is the sum of 5 million naira. I'm sure you'll be like, me and you know the truth. So, so ladies and gentlemen, number one, I'd like to ask number one, even to my online viewers, I hope you are ready for my question. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask, this one is very easy, who is the MD of Berger Paints Nigeria PLC? If you know it, let me see your hands up. Please, the staffs should not raise their hands. If you are a staff here, don't raise your hand up. Who is the MD of Berger Paints Nigeria PLC? So let me give it to, she raised her hand, so let me, yes, the name of the MD of Berger Paints.
Pronounce his name for something Abdul Roy.
You said I've mentioned it 50 times. So number two, okay, sir, your name and the answer.
My name is Solution Officer, Mrs. Salaba Fago.
Please, around here starts in the round of side is Fago. Number two, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask, what is the slogan of Berger Paints? The slogan of Berger Paints. If you know the answer, let me just. Sas, this morning, your smile alone. No, don't give him. Don't give him. Don't give him. His smile alone, you know he knows the answer. You know those people that used to sit at the front in exam hall. Once they see the question, they just start smiling. Let me ask him. Michael Jackson. What's the slogan of Berger Paints? Yes. You don't want to answer. Okay. Sir, what's the slogan? Okay, yes. No. Ma, what's the?
My name is Ijamal Dunukwe, and I think the slogan is experience your world in color.
Please, a round of applause for her. You know why I like her? She knows the answer. In fact, I'm supposed not to ask her, because from the name alone, it's part of her. But she knows the answer. But you know those oversabi people in school. If teacher asks, they don't want to show that they know the answer. They say, ma, I think the answer is, ma, you know the answer. Just say the truth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you just won the sum of 100 million naira. See me. Do you take check? You don't. I only have check. So my accountant will call me. The call itself is not as if the money wants to leave. He will ask me, who do you want to give that money to? You don't get time for account too. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask, what are the three primary colors of Berger? Or what are the three primary colors? Not Berger now. The three primary colors. If you know it, let me just see your hand. Three primary color now. We know those that went to private school and jealous in me. Okay, ma.
My name is Deborah. Red, blue, and yellow.
Ma?
Red, blue, yellow.
Red, blue, and yellow. Red, blue, and yellow. Please, a round of applause for her. It's correct. The last one, ladies and gentlemen, what secondary color do blue plus yellow form? What secondary color do blue plus yellow form? If you know the answer, let me see your hands up. And it's not you again. It's not you. But Berger Paint is not offering scholarship. Don't worry. I'm the teacher. Okay, she. Please let me give her. No. I saw your own hand. Give her the microphone. Yes. Sorry? Green. Green. She's correct. Please, a round of applause for her. If you notice, she didn't use the microphone like that. So just in case it's gray. If I say gray, yes, it's gray. So, ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, we move to the next panel session of the day. And to do that, once again, I'd like to invite to his chair, his wonderful chair, very comfortable. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this man I'm about to call needs no introduction. If your hands are not too busy, please, a round of applause for the one and only, the Chief Executive Officer, Think Business Africa, the person of Dr. Ogo Okiti. Sir, you're welcome again. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for this panel session is aimed at aesthetics and sustainability. Now, we have three panelists to discuss the state of art using Gen Z as a case study. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our first panelist for today is no other person but a proactive entrepreneur. This person has this evident in some of his recent accomplishments. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with close to 10 years of experience in sales, marketing, and property management, real estate, and property development. His competencies in turning young and emerging brand into competitive brand cannot be ignored. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, he's the executive director of sales at LifePage Group and the current managing director of Million Homes, a subsidiary of LifePage. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy, a round of applause for Mr. Ajilore Francis. Mr. Ajilore Francis. Hey, I talk calm. With this profile alone, you should say you know book for school, sir. Go. So, ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, I would like to call on this lead interior designer. She's the CEO of Lee Interiors. Lee Interiors is a leading interior design. They are leading interior design and electrical lighting supplies company based in Lagos, Nigeria. They specialize in residential and commercial electrical lighting supplies, renovation, and interior designs. She has extensive experience in interior decoration. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, not just interior design and lighting, procurement, and retail of interior design and fitting. She has an eye for detail and beauty, obviously, and has a lot of projects to her name. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy, please, a round of applause for Miss Linda Ogechi Ekere. Women calling her profile, she's just, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, I'd like to invite on stage the director and CEO of Nixon Group, the parent company of Nixon Property, a premium home development company operating in Lagos, Nigeria, which offers a complete real estate service where clients can access the latest expertise in a wide range of property matters and associated services. She has proven to be successful in luxury residential sector and exclusive apartments, and has demonstrated expertise in commercial and residential portfolio management. She's a graduate of the University of West England. She's also adept at handling rural properties and land development projects. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy, a round of applause for Miss, is it Miss or Mrs.? Miss Ichioma Odunokwe. Every of our panelists left this country to go and school abroad. Only our madam here schooled in this great country, Nigeria, in one of the prestigious school in West Africa, Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if you are proud to be a Nigerian, please a round of applause for yourself. This great citadel of learning I'm talking about is no other institution but Obafemi Awolowo University. Great Ife. Great Ife.
Yeah.
Great Ife. We'll see them.
Yeah. Thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you very much
for the introduction. But by the way, I went to a Nigerian university as well. Yeah, I did. I mean, I did. Yeah, I only did my master's and PhD outside. I went to Nigerian university. So anyway, I have three distinguished individuals and of course professionals here to talk about bridging the gap between rural and urban settlements in relation to, of course, environmental sustainability, but also in relation to aesthetics and interior design and whatever it is. So the focus on this session is slightly different from what we did in the first part. This time we are looking at sustainability cities and communities, and we are looking at them from the perspectives of both urban and rural areas. So we're going to be talking about localizing environmental sustainability in this session. And of course, we are going to be talking about the differences between environmental sustainability as it applies to urban or rural areas, and looking at the key differences and the driving elements of those differences, and looking at the role of regulation, poverty, knowledge, awareness, and how the outcomes for both communities can be improved over time. So, Ijoma, I will start with you. Please tell us in your homework. Do you have a mic, please? Yes. In your homework, especially in relation to aesthetics, how do we build a sustainable framework for the future? I mean, if you look at both the rural and the urban areas, are there peculiar characteristics that we should look at for as we build a framework, for environmental sustainability in the future? And what are those things that you think we should look at for, and how do you think we proceed from where we are now?
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ijoma Odunukwe. To answer your question, I'd like to start with a case study, which is where I schooled. I would say, so I schooled in Bristol. Bristol is in the southwest region of the United Kingdom, and Bristol generally is a green city. So they have something in the UK called the National Policy Framework, Planning Policy Framework. So those policies, they have about 10 objectives that govern the entire building infrastructures, both rural and urban planning. So those policies govern the entire framework of what it is both businesses, public and private sectors are going to be doing in terms of like building urban and rural settlements. So one of the objectives is affordable housing. So the policies they've put in place is developers should create room for affordable housing. There's also a policy called sustainability. So they are very they're very big on sustainability and green cities. Another one is, sorry, excuse me. Another one is communities. So there was a module I studied, it was called Making of Places. So this module was basically teaching us about how places were made from the medieval times up till today, right after the World War, the things that have happened and the things that have processed, like everything that has happened up until today. So, and something that I really found very interesting is that history has a way of repeating itself. It might not come as it is, but it has a very strong way of coming back in a way or in a bigger way. So in regards to how we can build or how we can merge both rural and urban settlements and create an atmosphere where it is conducive for both parties to be able to live in. So I feel like policies are very important. I also feel like as communities as well, education, especially in the rural areas, there's so many people that are not aware of the importance of recycling. I don't even want to say the rural areas, even the normal urban areas in Nigeria, you still find people littering with mixing landfills with plastic, and they're mixing plastic with raw food or food waste. Food waste is actually waste that cannot be reused. So you have things like plastic, whereas like you can use them to make other things. You have the landfill waste where most times they're actually buried, but they're not necessarily good for the environment. And if you look at the United Nations, they have about 12 objectives that govern all the countries in the world, and most countries have to basically align their policies in the same light as the United Nations so that all of us are actually meeting one goal. So education is very important in this aspect, educating people as to what the importance of sustainability is, letting them know why we need to introduce more ways of living sustainably. If you look at as a whole in Nigeria, we depend solely on oil materials. So all our building, most of our building materials are also gotten from petroleum products as well. A lot of our whole system is built on petroleum products as well. But when you look at countries like England, you have countries like China as well. They've started like creating atmospheres and places where people can come and learn, and they don't make it seem like it's a bad thing, like you don't know about it, but they don't make it seem like how to explain? They don't make it seem like it's a bad thing that you don't know about what recycling is, but they're giving room for everyone to be educated about it. For example, if you go around, for many of us that have left the country, you find that they always have three types of bins, public bins. There's a reason why they do that, so that those that are going to come for the landfill waste will take the point of the landfill waste. The recycling will be taken to the recycling centers, and they're remade into things that can be used for the communities. Most times, the government actually, there was a scheme that was going on in Bristol where they used to actually pay people to recycle. So the government created a scheme, the local government created a scheme where if you have enough materials to recycle and you can either maybe replant something with your old food, for example, like seeds as well. You know, sometimes when you eat, when you cook, you have some seeds out of some food. Instead of throwing the waste away, most of the time they actually encourage you to recycle that food as well. A lot of people are not aware of these things. So I feel like education is really one of the key things that we should start with. And we need to try as much as possible to implement policies, or also look at other countries and places that have been successful in these type of things. Sustainability is not something that is out of reach, and it is not impossible either. Being a green city is not impossible. I just feel like it takes a whole lot of community work. It takes a lot of education. It takes a lot of awareness. It takes a lot of patience and teamwork for us to be able to get to where we want to get to.
Okay. So, thank you very much. Linda, please. I think you have a very unique experience compared to most of us here, because we've been talking about building, we've been talking about the physical environment, but you are focused on the interior. So I want you to talk about the global trends in relation to interior, focusing only on interior. What are the global trends that promote environmental sustainability? I mean, from an interior decoration perspective.
Good day, everyone. My name is Linda, as we all have established that. I'm the CEO of Lee Interiors. First of all, I want to tell you that interior design is a very complex field which encompasses architecture, functionality, culture, and many more. It's not all about just putting pieces in a space or decorating spaces or playing with colors. It's way more than that. We literally determine the kind of lifestyle or the kind of life our client is going to have in their space. So with that, okay. So with that being said, I would like to outline areas in which Nigeria is catching up with the global trends. We have cultural infusion. We have technology integration. We have sustainability. We have maximization. We have personalization. We have minimalization. But I want to focus on the areas that has to do with this topic, which is sustainability. With the environmental challenges we face every day in our life as interior designers, we are obliged to use eco-friendly materials. Like I said earlier, when it comes to designing a space, we work hand in hand with architects. So we are it's a must. We tell them the kind of materials they use because our clients are going to be living in this space. So they must use materials that are very healthy, that are very okay for the human health. When I was asked the question earlier, I mentioned something about that lead being used in production, lead being used in production. That thing really caught my attention because of the fact that when I read about the causes, the negative causes it has on human health, I was really surprised that it was actually even used in production in the past. I did not believe that because I've had cases where clients tell me that when they wake up, they feel tired in a space without even doing anything. Sometimes it's related to the materials being used in the space. Sometimes it's related to paint being used in that client house. And these are things that over time, I and my team will try to find out what is causing our client to be sweating in a space, what's causing our client to be feeling nauseous in a space. Sometimes it can be linked to light. Light can be the reason why a client is sweating profusely. The kind of paint you use can be the reason why a client is sweating profusely in a space. These areas are areas that us as interior designers are obliged to find out better ways to make them have better paint or better life. That's our job. So now, in that aspect, we are really focused about having our clients having better life. Now I move into technology integration. In terms of technology integration, is about how we're able to provide, are able to advance with technology. I'm sure you've heard about smart homes. I've heard about motorized curtains. We heard about sensor motion and all that. All these things are things that we use for our clients for easy living. Let me give an example with a very quick story. Imagine you are a client, an individual back from work, extremely tired, you are exhausted, and you're living in a duplex. You go upstairs to your bedroom and you lay down. As you lay down, you forget that you forgot to put off your appliances, or you forgot to put off your TV or whatever. And at that moment, you are exhausted. Now, us as interior designers, with our exposure to the outside world, to the global trends, we found out that there are ways you don't have to go back downstairs. You can literally lie down on the comfort of your bed and put up any kind of appliances with the help of Alexa and the rest, even without even being in the country. You can be in another man's land and still operate whatever appliance you have in your space. Now we have the use of CCTV. Everything, things are getting better. And us as interior designers, we are obliged to advance with technology as long as it's sustainable to the human health, as long as it has no effects to the human health. We make sure that every materials we use, every materials we get from our producers or our suppliers go along with the SDG UN policies and goals, which is focusing on good health and making sure that everything is being achieved. Now, I want to focus on something also. What we call the solar system. The solar system is an area that we've not really dived into, and this really helps in maintaining and preserving energy and preserving the use of units. At the moment, right now, we're aware that they've increased a lot of tariffs. They call it popularly called NEPA, but no longer called NEPA. Is now everybody's spending tons of money on electricity, and that can be avoided if you dive into usage of solar system. As a kid growing up, I experienced something which was called electrical shock growing up. My parents were done building their house in Festac, so I was going to take a shower, and I touched the shower head, and immediately I had a shock. I ran down to my mom and I told her what happened, and we found out that the electrician mistakenly connected the wire to the electric head. So now imagine if we had used a solar system to connect that, we will not experience that. And in the same way, we will save cost. So with our exposure to the outside world as interior designers, we give our clients options, ways they can save energy, ways they can manage cost through that. Yeah.
Yeah, Linda. Yeah. I mean, I like everything that you said. I mean, I like it. But there's and that's where Francis comes in.
Okay.
There's a difference between what you want and the reality of life. Right?
True.
So if you ask everyone here about a designer, I believe they will assume, and probably rightly so, that your services will be expensive. I'm not asking you to defend yourself.
No, no, of course.
But I'm saying they will assume,
Yes.
and probably rightly. Yes. So, Francis, you deal in properties, because you build properties. You have to work with architects. You have to work with, in some of your properties, you probably do interiors, some interior. So, how do we begin to match our aspirations with our reality in terms of finances and, of course, the market?
That for me.
No, for him.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Once again, I want to extend my appreciation to Virgil Paint for the invitation. So, obviously, I rightly so what you said. And while the first panelist was speaking, she talked about affordability, and I want to communicate this fact that affordability doesn't imply cheap. The fact that things are affordable doesn't make it cheap. Affordability is also relative. Sometimes what plays out is uh, while you're in pursuit of cheap things as against affordability, you end up subscribing for something that possibly should last you for a period of 6 to 10 years, but you have to keep changing every 6 months. Over the extended period of time, you get to see that you spend more. Value of money is no longer the same. Availability of that same. So imagine referring to the last speaker, where you bought inferior bulbs in here, and 2 or 3 are damaged. However, you have to replace them, and those particular brand is no longer available in the market. It means you possibly have to replace everything. So the thought process needs to be worked on. The other thing I'd like to touch on before I address the core of the question you asked me is this urban rural dichotomy. We need to look at it. Number one, because one of the things that make people migrate, a whole lot of migration to happen towards the city, is because people don't value where they find themselves. And if you go to a resort, most of the items you'll see them use are the things that you will literally find in those rural areas. But you will enjoy and pay more for it. You pay premium to come and use it because someone packaged it so. So why are we to communicate to our people to begin to value what they have? And one of the ways I do that is a whole lot of things play around psychology. Make people feel good about what they have, and they'll begin to appreciate it a lot better. And one of the things I tell them is, I call them emerging city. I describe them as emerging city. The moment you make somebody feel good and feel like, okay, it's our thing, they get to do it a lot better beyond just putting policies, beyond introducing inflation strategies and all of those things to discourage people from living in the city. You can make these people allow where they find themselves to work. So then obviously renewable energy was already talked about. So earlier on when I spoke and commended the brand that is hosting us today, I did say that there's quality at every level. So there is a version of, so she talked about using is it tradition or something? There's something that you talked about, culture. So there's a version of culture that you will introduce here that will cost you hundreds of millions. There's also the version that you would only say it's 500,000 naira is my budget. This is the idea that I have. This is what I intend to achieve. And you will bring it to fusion. As you progress, success is a journey just as much as excellence. As you progress, you evaluate and review all of these things. And that's my thought on this. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so very much. And where I want us to focus now is in relation, and I'm still with you. I want us to look at, you spoke about the urban and the rural area, and I like the comment that you make. I'm an economist. So I would think differently from the way you do it. The main problem between rural and urban in Nigeria for me is infrastructure. So, and until those that are in charge of that wakes up and understand that there's really no difference between me living in Ogun State and working in Lagos as long as I can travel to work seamlessly. Then that's number one. Then number two, obviously, apart from just infrastructure, there are other elements in community. So where in the world, and I'm going to ask you the same question, John, where in the world do you think they have got it right? And they have been able to reduce the gap between urban and rural, especially in a way that has helped environmental sustainability. And I'm going to ask you the same question for interior design, please.
Okay, I'll be very brief to it. In 2019, I was in Amsterdam and I was quite impressed at the level of how they are so conscious about the environment and how it plays out. And like I've been to UK, I'm impressed with what she said about the UK. However, I don't think I'm that fascinated about. I rather appreciate more of the nature that that is being encouraged, environmental friendliness that I get to see in Amsterdam. And that's personally, one key thing for me is every time I have opportunity to learn. Obviously, I've learned a lot from Dr. Dakpo today. I've learned quite a lot from everyone who has spoken. I try to 10 things may have been shared. If it's two that I'm going to act on, I pick it and I run with it. One of the things I picked in the course of that visit was what led me to investing a whole lot in a shortlet apartment. And my next major project, personal project, not company project, is working on a mini resort and the mini resort is not in Lagos. In the month of August, I still visited one. I'm not yet to market brands for people, but I do that periodically just to get my gigs back and to get my groove back, But beyond doing that in certain prime location in the urban area, some of these things can be actualized in the rural area. And but like we said, the objective is not just to have some of those things in the rural area. How can we equally have them in the urban settlement, and which quite a number of people are doing as we speak? But be it as it may, I think there's so much to learn from the Netherlands. But why I focused on Amsterdam is the fact that it's a prime location, but yet not every space that you have is meant to choke. You should choke yourself. And I know there's this space. This can contain another 4-bedroom duplex. It can contain 5 units. No, it doesn't have to be so. So that's why I have that opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Linda.
can I just say something before you carry on? So in terms of affordability, I wasn't necessarily referring to how much. So if we look at, I'll use 2 cities in England. I'll use London and I'll use Swansea and Bristol because they're both in Southwest. So London is a city that has been gentrified, and all of us are very much aware of the level of gentrification that has gone on there. In order to preserve a culture of a place, you need to be able to at least preserve the things that started with the place, if that makes sense. So in terms of affordability, what I'm also talking about is the government can create like schemes or like bodies where they make affordable housing. If you go to places like South London, you have council flats. They don't belong to individuals.
Not anymore.
There are still council flats.
Very few.
A very few of them, but the reason why is because they're gentrifying the places. They're building more new builds so that they can use more eco-friendly materials. I don't know if and those are not affordable housing. because those materials are not cheap to gather. So when you say affordable housing, I feel like you said, it is relative. So I think we now need to, we as individuals or people that are in industry, we now need to kind of like find a way to also make the government aware of the things that we can find, like we can use to meet in the middle type of thing. So I also feel like you also said about you're not really wild about the UK. So what I was really referring to is the way they reserve and they preserve their green spaces. So if there's one thing they don't joke about is their green spaces, and you can't go to a place and tell me that you expect it to be eco-friendly and there are no green spaces. In Nigeria, we have a master plan. There's a master plan for the entire country. There have been spaces allocated for green spaces. There have been spaces allocated for recreational spaces. There are spaces allocated for commercial, mixed use, and residential. These are things that are already put in place. But the system we have as a whole, we already know you're basically in the industry, you know how it is in those offices and how things go. So no matter how much, like I feel like we as individuals, education is so important. Awareness is so important. That's why I'm so heavy on it, because you cannot teach what you don't know.
Okay, so I mean, I will come back to you to buttress it, but let me throw this question open, especially as you begin to answer. I'm trying to refrain from asking some of these questions because they are very, very fundamental. When we say education is very important, and it's during your home panel, awareness is very important. Those are not the problem. The problem in Nigeria is that we just get away with anything
Because of the mentality. Mentality is something that carries you far. If you look at the average white man, their mentality is so different.
Group mentality.
Group mentality, and as a whole, integrity is something that a lot of them stand on, but you don't get that from the average Nigerian. Or you have to, I feel like for some most times when you always have to kind of like, for you to trust someone you want to work with, especially these artisans, let's take it down to our level. The artisans, most of them, you have to work with them based on recommendations. Why? Because of their mentality. And you cannot fault them for their mentality because they don't know. So you need to put people in place that would be able to come down to their level, because they might not understand it the way I'm explaining it, but there are people that are there that will be able to come down to their level and explain to them the importance of why things should be the way it is. And if there are also systems in place, which is why I still go back to the policies, because nothing can ever work without the head. That policy is the brain that basically is going to shift all the objectives and is going to either make or push whatever it is that we're going to do as a whole. So if we don't have those policies in place and we don't have systems to also support what it is that we're doing as a group, there's nothing that would ever move.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ichema. So before you come in, let me just try and simplify this. We are in a country, and you have this experience, fantastic experience. You love your stay in Bristol. I've never been to Bristol before, but you love your stay. So you have this experience. Now you have made head of so and so, right? I'm just trying to imagine in somewhere like Lagos, what do you even begin to reverse? Because I'm asking a rhetorical question. I'm not even asking you. What do you begin to reverse? So is it the residential and official mix in VI, or the residential and official mix in Ikoyi, or the Lekki that we built in the last 30 years by ourselves? Why? Right? That has only one road from toll gate to Ekpe, only one road for 10, 15 million people, or let me say 5 million people. Meanwhile, 75 years ago, the Ikoyi, the Surulere, and the VI that the white man built, they have connection everywhere. So where do you begin to reverse them? It's not just about mentality. There is something worse than mentality. Because don't tell me these people don't know what they are doing. They do. So, when we are talking here, let's talk within our own scope. When we move to Nigerian level, it will be something else. So let's just focus on our interior decor. How do you deal with your clients? What's the difference between urban and rural? I'm sure you don't even work for any rural. Anyway, so, but I mean, what do we need to watch out for? Not just only our experience now. Let's begin to talk about the solutions. Yes, please.
Okay. In my field, in terms of solution on how to maintain a livable society, I will start from the grassroots, which is my artisans. Um, I have some boys I started working with recently. Let me talk about their health wise. When I started working with them, when they are doing the woodwork production, they don't have any nose mask on, they don't have any protection on. They cut whatever they want to cut and inhale all these things. Most of them don't live up to 50 years, 60 years, they die off. Why? Because of the substances they've inhaled over the years. But from my own way, the only way I can be able to help to solve that area is to be able to provide the needed equipment in terms of production process. That's one. And also, when I want to do woodwork, I will try to avoid woods that bring out a lot of particles. Now we have what we call the HDF wood and the MDF wood. And I'm sure most of you know the difference between them. The MDF wood has a lot of particles when you are producing, cutting them off to make maybe like a TV unit, for example. The amount of particles that come out from MDF wood, yes, it's cheap, but it has a lot of bad effects on the health of our artisans, even to our clients. It doesn't last long. Like he said, when you're trying to work on trying to buy something that is cheap, you end up spending more in time. If you use the MDF wood for your unit, for example, it lasts less. The highest it can stay for is 4 or 5 years. But HDF wood can be reused even when you're moving out. Just call us, we'll uncouple it and take it to your new location. So in that area, we try to tell our clients, oh, why don't you don't use MDF, use HDF. Then we tell our workers, when you are working, when you're cutting these woods, put on protective masks. Try to care about your health. We give them options. And sometimes in my own field, in my own company, for example, I bring in incentives. Like I walk into my workshop without telling them, and anybody that I see that is obeying my rules of trying to maintain good health, I can maybe give you money or pay for your lunch just to give you that ginger, like they say, that ginger, that drive to want to obey it. That's that aspect. Then in terms of my clients now, coming to my clients, because you mentioned something about lighting sector. In terms of lighting sector, I try to make sure that my clients use energy saving lights. Well, I introduce LED lights. If you look at most of my projects, I use a lot of LED lights, a lot, and spotlights, because no matter how beautiful chandeliers look, they consume a lot of energy, a lot and a lot of units. So I try my best to imbibe, this is what we call the spotlight, imbibe the use of spotlight, imbibe the use of LED. So now when you are in your sitting room, for example, you don't have to put on a chandelier. You can put on the LED light or the spotlight for use. In that way, you are saving energy. You are reducing costs. So with all these areas, the areas I think we need to work better, which in my own field we are trying is these days Gen Zs are very open to using their parents' old furniture. I noticed it. Sometimes they call me and be like, Lee Interiors, I want to design my one-room apartment, but I have this. They bring in their parents' old furnitures. So now I'm happy that they don't want to throw it away. They don't want to just toss it off. Now they give us an old bed of their parents. What we do is we refurbish it. We don't just toss away the bed. We can change maybe the bed cover, that's the material being used, maybe to leather or to a fabric choice. Then in the furnitures, and the funny thing is, some of these old furnitures have very strong materials being used in the production, more than even the new ones we have now. And I don't know if anybody's in the wood sector right now. We're complaining about the fact that they've reduced their materials in producing HDF. HDF is not as strong as it used to be in the past. So I'm happy that people are open to reusing. It's not about, oh, I don't want to claim I don't have money. No, it's about the fact that you're trying to avoid tossing away things. You can now reuse it. So we are open to actually allowing our client tell us, oh, I'm moving from so place to this place, Lee. Can I reuse this chair? And I will tell you, of course, you can reuse it. We can just recover it with another material. And at the same time, we are still trying to maintain a good life for you at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are concluding this session, and I'm going to ask all of you the same question. I'm going to start with you, Ichoma. We want to build a sustainable environment, sustainable community, sustainable rural urban area. Now, England is England. Now we are home. What do you think is the starting point from your home point of view? It's the same question. Oren, please.
Okay.
Where do we start? Is it regulation? Is he the right person at the end of affairs? Is it you've emphasized so much on education? You can still do that if you want. You can double down on that, even though I don't think that's the problem. So where do you think we should start? Because I really think it's a serious problem, and I don't think it's just about poverty. I mean, I had two people just in the last 1 month. They went to Kigali. Have never been to Kigali. And what they said about Kigali is, I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, what happens in Kigali? So I don't think they are richer than we are. But so how do we make progress building sustainable communities from Nigeria's perspective?
I mean, I think the first thing we would start with is in our own personal businesses. So I will start with Nixon as a whole, and I can tell you what it is that we've started incorporating. So the company started a while ago, and I wasn't a part of the company when it actually started. I only started at 2019. So at that point, they had already built a lot of units. And if you know how normal developers do their units, they build in a stretch, or most of them are not doing like actual communities, or they're not making it a mixed use space where it can be conducive for their clients to stay in. So
just collect the money.
So the framework we've been looking at is trying to obviously build more communities. And in these communities, we've been trying as well to partner with companies. So one of our partners is Fireman. So we've been partnering with them to try and see if we can go into small villages to try and light up those villages with their solar panels. So we also provide solar panels to the buildings when we build as well, so that the clients that were giving the houses to don't have to worry about getting generators or anything like that at that point in time. So I feel like as business owners and as individuals, we should start with ourselves, our businesses, and make it a framework for the next generation as well. So that way we're able to kind of like build on what it is that is already being done. So far, I feel like if you look at the building industry, there are lots of companies that are really doing so well. They're trying their much as possible to basically rewrite the story of what urban planning, typical urban planning is in Nigeria. So it's really good to see that. So I feel like there should be more of that. Engaging communities, making places, small communities. It doesn't have to be a massive estate. It can start with maybe just that small place that has a face me, I face you. They can have a little playground or something. So I feel like it really starts with us as a whole. So that's
Okay,
what I was
thank
saying.
you. So we start with the businesses. We start with ourselves. Okay, thank you. Linda.
Okay. You asked what area can we try
Yeah,
to
where do we start? I mean,
for
we know
ourselves?
there are so many challenges. We're not doing things rightly. She said we should start with the businesses that we run. Where do we start?
Okay. First off, she's right. Start ourselves first, which is in leadership. As an individual, you must lead the way. If you are leading the way, people behind you look up to you. Like whatever you, let me put it like this: practice what you preach. I can't tell my workers to do something this way and turn around and do something else.
So let me ask a question,
Yeah.
please. If you want to do the right thing
Yeah.
in Nigeria, and we all want to do the right thing, but sometimes you want to do the right thing and it's keeping you hungry, what do you do? I mean, it's just it's a very practical question. Yes, go ahead.
The thing is, my father would say, money is not everything.
I did not say money.
I know,
Hungry.
hungry. Money can solve hunger.
Well, yeah, that's why I did not use the word money.
Now I'm saying
I'm
money
talking
can.
hunger.
Sometimes you starve. Sometimes to
Okay.
get some things done right.
Okay.
My father is a big fan of that. He's always saying, "Okay, Chiku, money is not everything. Sometimes you need to suffer a bit to make some things go well."
Okay.
And in that area, when you talk about ourselves, we are the main focus here. There was a time they dropped a policy in Lagos where if you throw away debt on the road, some people are around to stop your car to tell you to pick it up. One thing about us as Nigerians is that we have issues of continuity. Then, when the policy was implemented first, when you throw, before you throw things, you'll be looking around to know if those people will be able to like stop you and tell you, yeah. But now they're no longer there anymore. So people are now back to throwing waste. People are now back to dumping things. And all these things are things that if we our government can really focus on, put more pressure on into it, in that way we can be able to reduce waste. So that area for me. Then now coming to my own company, relating to my customers, I want them to be open to us bringing in new methods in trying to bring about betterment of their life. Because sometimes we have a very, very stubborn client and we have very stubborn architects that when they are building, they are putting, let's say, you have your where your kitchen is and where the parlor is and where they place things wrong, and all these things leads to human health issues. So if architects are more open to us working hand in hand, we will try and avoid disturbing human health. And I'm sure that's this area, because most times I always have to fight with them on site.
No, you won't fight with them. So let them speak now. So where do we make progress? How do we make that progress? Where do we start from?
So there's the aspect of government, policymakers, they should digitalize most of the processes and avoid us having to interface with human, because that's where bureaucracy comes to play, and it frustrates most of the good intentions that we have to carry out. I remember a project, about 31 units project that we did somewhere around there, and our approval came out after the building. People were living inside the project, whereas you applied at the right time. That's reality.
Exactly. You built without approval, because no.
Okay.
Don't worry. I'm not reporting you.
I meant the approval came out after the signed
thing.
what have you.
It's
Okay.
the same thing.
Okay.
It's the same thing. Let's not. So that's exactly the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, we all doing little bits, and we all want to continue to do little bits.
Yeah.
But it is that doing little bits in our home corner,
yeah,
that is causing the problem, because we can't do much in little bits. We can't. Let's just accept that we can't do much in little bits.
Achieve that much.
We can't. The achievement is 0.1%.
Yeah.
So we must have the collective, and we must have a regulatory leadership that makes progress before we can genuinely make the kind of progress we are talking about.
So unfortunately, sometimes when you have body, for instance, we belong to Redan, but sometimes the representing that space are also advocating for themselves. They want to achieve as much as they can while they are at the end of affairs. So, but that being said, other aspects will have to be collaboration. Collaboration will help a whole lot of us achieve more. Also serve as a watchdog for each other. Oh, have you taken it? And that will help us a lot more. And because I'm aware that, or I was preview to the fact that Berger Paint was hosting us today, I felt that it's necessary to communicate this, if they could work on this as well. And that is the aspect of carving niche. So in order not to lose any part of the market, not to lose the rural or any part of the urban, can they say, okay, we have a subsidiary that takes care of the people in the rural, a subsidiary, so people will know that, okay, there are certain facts that they won't compromise in certain standards, but yet we can have a bit of our fair quality in that the rural, and at the same time have a bit of that in urban. So I'll stop at that. Then lastly, there's the aspect of co-ownership mindset that we need to introduce to people. Gone are the days where we're familiar with the co-tenant kind of arrangement where you have face me and face you, face me and slap you settings. But the concept about co-owning properties for the purpose of meeting the needs, where you don't need to say, I will build a quack house because people can't afford it. I will build quality, but we'll co-own it with the objective of earning rental income as a body.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please? I'll take two questions. Okay. The same two people? Huh? The same two people. Okay. I'll start with you again.
To me, I put a comment and a question. Doctor, thank you very much for the moderation. I think in building, one or two challenges in building sustainable communities, to me, is that it appears the people think faster than the government. And that is why government, after the people had thought, build houses like you said, build houses where there's green area, government comes back, second thought to destroy them. People are thinking more than faster than the government. Yeah. You know, and to me, it's a major problem in Nigeria, and we should try to avoid that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Question.
Okay. Thank you very much for the enlightenment. So my point is to Francis. So you are a developer, and we're talking about sustainability. So how do you ensure, if you're building houses, apart from we looking at the energy, the materials we use, in terms of waste management, do you kind of put in places structures where people can, a dedicated place where people can put their waste, and different kinds of notices or displays to say, okay, this is where you should dump this is where you shouldn't dump this? Do you inculcate that to your plan in building as well?
Thank you very much. I believe I can proceed, sir.
No, just one minute. Let me just read this about the question you asked. Said someone is asking from online, can we separate our historical culture from the aesthetics in maintaining sustainability? So I think that's for you. Can we separate our historical culture from the aesthetics in maintaining sustainability? But let him answer his own question.
Okay. So I'll start with the first question, which had to do with going ahead of government.
Yes, business.
Rather than saying being forward-minded or forward-thinking as a business is not the error. It is government that should endeavor to poach bright minds from the private sector. But the challenge why most exceptional minds don't want to get into the public sector is because of this bureaucracy, who know who, the processes it has to go through, and all of those things. And sometimes when you want to share some of these thoughts, it's like you are the enemy of that system, and that's it. So they need to scale up and try to do a catch-up game. So it's not us that should slow down because we want government to catch up with us. So that's where I'll start from. Then as to standards in terms of the projects that we do, the environment, it's one thing I stand for. Most of our projects, beyond the fact that we make provision for those things, we equally engage facility management company to do all of those things, because in business you can't handle growth and if you want to manage, you can't and manage both growth and trying to be micromanaging at the same time. You just have to let go of some. So if the vision is to create 1 million homes, then we have a template to replicate back to back, but we are not doing that without carrying along certain people to do so. And most of our projects, you get, I live in one of the estate where such project is, and every time I drive, I use my own retained or personal assets for short-let businesses in there. But every time I drive through the place and I see all the, when she talked about bins for plastics, I see all of those things, they adhere to all those principles.
Okay.
And I continue to advocate for that.
Finally,
Excuse me. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you. So the question you asked is if we should
can we separate our historical culture from aesthetics in maintaining sustainability?
Separating our historical culture from aesthetics, I think I would say yes and I would say no. Because culture is what identifies a place. It identifies you as an individual. It identifies a place, and this is how you know how this place came about. And most places, I like to use Western countries because they love to preserve their culture a lot. So if you go to Rome, you go to Italy, even Amsterdam as well, they have a lot of things that have been there since the medieval times. And these things are things that raise a lot of revenue for them as a city. Why? Because you have people trooping in from different parts of the world just to see this place, just to have a look at this place. So now this is where making of places comes in. So in terms of making of places, I can't say we can necessarily separate our historical culture from the aesthetics, because this culture make up the aesthetics in our own setting. This culture has to, the things that make our culture has to make the aesthetics of the nation or of the environment that we're in. So if we say we want to separate our culture from the aesthetics, so what do we really use to identify ourselves?
Okay, so thank you. On that note, we have come to the end of this session, and I want to thank Ijoma, MD, CEO, Nixon Group, Linda Ogechi, CEO, I Interiors, right? Ella Interiors. Okay, and Francis Ajilore, Executive Sales Director, Life Page Global. And because I'm with these eminent people today, I can assure you that by next year, I will have my own property. Thank you.
Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please once again, a round of applause for our panelists as they go to their seats. While the panel session was going on, I was following online, and people online were saying we are not carrying them along, we are not asking their questions, we are not saying their contribution. So from YouTube or from online, I have this question for Miss Linda. Miss Linda, and the question is like this. He said, in interior design, don't you think economic consideration can be a barrier to achieving a sustainable and comfortable indoor space? What are your views on this?
You said, don't I think what?
So he said, don't you think interior design, don't you think economic consideration or economic considering can be a barrier to achieving a sustainable and comfortable indoor space? What are your views on
In achieving a
this?
sustainable indoor space, I understand that sometimes finances can be a big challenge in having that achieved. But at the same time, we have affordable means to be able to achieve sustainable space. You don't have to break a leg to be able to have a livable space. There are different materials that we use that are not overly expensive. We have very affordable things that we use in for our clients in designing their spaces.
So Mr. Moshood, I hope.
Can I go further?
Okay.
Okay. To look into the cultural aspect in sustaining spaces, you don't have to use very expensive materials. Let's say, for example, you want to have like a bed frame. You can use bamboo. You can use bamboo to finish up your bed design. You can use our locally produced materials to design your space. You don't have to import any material you want to use. There are so many times I use our material, our textiles here. I use even our artists in terms of artworks. Most time people want to bring in their artwork from the outside world, but I always tell them that we have very good indoor artists that can give you very beautiful designs. For example, if you look at art by Atinuke, look at Yomi Bas, these are Nigerian-based artists that have worked with us in the past and have given us very beautiful designs at a very affordable rate. So you don't have to literally rob the bank to have a sustainable space.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Linda. Thank you very much. And Mr. Moshood online. I hope you understand now. So lastly, someone gave his view on this. He said, I actually like your presentation as you dive from tech perspective, e.g. Alexa, smart home, to the use of color and their effects on occupants. Well done. Yes, that's for you. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please, if you know you're happy with this session too, if you know you've learned a lot, please a round of applause for yourselves. I know a lot of us, we have questions to ask, but we are sorry time is not on our side. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, I'd like to move to the vote of thanks. To the vote of thanks. And to do that for us, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if your hands are not too busy, please a round of applause for Mrs. Yemisi Ilile as she comes forward for the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon again, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for joining this conversation today, both those of us that are here physically and those who are online. Thank you very much for being with Beja Pain today on this conversation on sustainability, sustainable cities and communities. I'd like to thank very specially our moderator for today, Dr. P. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being with us today. All our panelists from Mr. Dr. Deji, Dr. Dapo, Linda, Ijoma, and the rest of you are very knowledgeable. We recognize you. We thank you for being here today. Most especially, we thank the management of Beja Paints for starting this conversation, not starting this conversation, because this conversation is part of our SDGs goal by the United Nations. And especially for keying into this conversation at this point in time, I believe it's a very good time to key into such. And I want to thank the management for, first of all, providing a decent work environment for those of us that work here. And like Mrs. Olajubu said, ensuring that our environment is sustainable, even for the plants and animals. I learned that today, and I'm taking that away from here. They have the right to live, and we thank Beja Pain for keying into this today. Our media partners are not left out. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for your time. And we, to our wonderful marketing team led by Mrs. Pekulia Okafor, thank you for bringing this together. I know that you have had moments of planning and engagement with various stakeholders to make this a success. And we are very glad that we have you on board our team at Beja Pain. Let the conversation continue online. Again, our hashtag is TrueColours, am I right? Our hashtag is TrueColours. Let the conversation continue online. You can tweet some of the things that we took out of here today, some of the things that we learned. And thank you, everyone, for coming here today. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Ma. Like Mrs. Yemisi rightly. Earlier, Badger Paint is one of the paint manufacturing companies, the lead one.
Prophetessa Productions. Tessa Productions.
Last time, DJ Palmer. Thank you. Thank you. After this national anthem, I'm supposed to say greatest Nigeria. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, please a round of applause for yourself and do have a great day. Mr. DJ.